and I mean this, never let anyone who hasn't achieved what you want to achieve in the way you want to achieve it tell you that your dream is stupid.
Look,
Alright, what is going on, everyone? Today I will be sharing you my journey of this whole knife making journey of mine. I will be just telling you guys everything that's happened in this whole thing. Well, it started in 2016 and now we're here in 2021. Now I'll be telling you all the significant details that I went through in this, and I'm not going to tell you any of my personal stuff because I don't want this to be like a life journey. It's going to be specifically for the knife making process. Let's get started. Well, before I get started, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who's watching and all my subscribers, fans, followers, customers. You're all super important to me, so thank you. Everyone in my circle, loved. If you guys don't know who I am, I'll just do a quick overview of my profile, but my name is Gillian and I am a YouTuber slash knife maker. I will make it big in this industry and I want to inspire people, help people with this whole, all my knowledge that I accumulate with knives, knife making, fragrances, because I'm really into fragrances too, music, life stuff, just all stuff I want to provide for the community, and I want to make an impact in this whole sector of this artisan place, knife making, fragrances, YouTube, all that stuff. And this is my room. This is the memo vault by my friend Ben, who is a musician. You got my fragrances there, notes, so that's that. So that's me, that's who I am. And I've been knife making part-time, I would say part-time knife maker for about a year and a half now, a year and a half, something like that. So my journey, it all started off in 2016. Now, the very first time I made a knife was when I took these tin snips and I cut this sink. And it was like a tin sink, it was a metal sink, it was made of sheet metal, and I cut knife-like objects out of that sink. I made like a shuriken thing, I made this weird knife thing, made this kunai. A lot of my schoolmates would know what that is. I took that to school for like years as a keychain. Yeah, it started in 2016. I was in grade 8 at the time, and I was 13 years old at the time too, so quite young. I was quite young. I got started pretty early in this whole knife making thing, which was, I'm pretty grateful for that too. But my first year of knife making was not knife making. I made knives out of sheet metal, which was really just inferior. They didn't have an edge on them. They weren't beveled. They didn't have handles. They were just sheet metal. But it was a start. It was a start of something. And I thought to myself, all right, this is pretty fun. I'm making something with my hands. And I posted it to YouTube. You guys can actually see that on my old channel if you want to look. I'll put some pictures up for now. This is what the knives look like and stuff. So that was my first few months of knife making. Then I wanted to get a little bit more serious. So I went and got myself, well, my parents got me a works angle grinder. And that angle grinder is still here to date. I still have it. It's the only angle grinder I have. It's the only one I've ever bought because it works really well and it just hasn't died yet. So what's the need to replace it? So I used that and I started making knives from sheet metal. Sorry, not sheet metal, bar stock. Like bar stock. It was just welding steel crap. It wasn't real, knife making steel. It was probably like 1020 high carbon. Well, not high carbon, low carbon. It was some really pathetic steel. From sheet metal knives to actual knives made of actual metal, that was a big jump. So that was a pretty good improvement, I would say. And so I'd use the angle grinder and I'd make that. And I made a couple of things out of that. I made a flat bar sword, which most of you guys would know. I did a couple of, tutorial videos on how to make them. It was pretty pathetic, but for the time, it was really cool for me. And I also made armor as well, a bunch of other stuff. That was like my Gillian production stage. So that's when I made those kind of knives, inferior knives. And it kept going on like that until 2017. I actually made a couple of knives for my friends. Here's some pictures of them. And they were pretty decent. They looked okay. They weren't by any means cool by any standards, but for a 14-year-old kid, that was one of the best things I've ever made. That I could say, damn, I made this with my hands. This is really cool. I just fell in love with the process. I really liked the idea of making things my own way. But I'll get into that too, but we'll stick to the story. In 2017, in the middle of that, if you guys know me personally, there was a lot of family issues I had, and I took a break from the knife making stuff for about a year and a half. It was a good solid year. I just didn't make anything, and that was really bad. I actually lost the passion for it quite a bit. And you know, from that point onwards, in between that time, I started getting into invertebrates, which I know this is a little off topic, but it's important in the knife making process. So I started doing this business in the invertebrate industry, and it was just collecting bugs, breeding them, selling them, or just collecting and selling them in general. Sell them to shops, sell them to private buyers, sell them to other breeders so they can breed them. I did a lot of stuff in that. It was really fun. But on the verge of that, I realized to myself that it wasn't really something that I was fully into, and I would just keep it into a hobby, and I'd never make it into a career. I know a lot of people who do that as a career, like Isaac Birmingham and was that other guy? Can't remember, I'm sorry. But the Insectary, you know, Mini Beast Wildlife, they all do this for a living. But after that, I decided to start making knives again. So I decided to move away from the angle grinder, and I got myself, with the money that I had, I got myself one of those Azito belt sanders. It was like a portable one. You'd hold it. It was for tiling and stuff. But yeah, that was a step up from the angle grinder. And keep in mind too, when it comes to me getting this stuff, I could have got a 2x72 belt grinder, but I spent a lot of my money from the invert stuff on knives. I actually have some here, let me show you. Like this stuff, I bought a lot of knives, machetes, all that, with the money I made from the inverts, because I made a lot of money from that. Surprisingly, I made like 4,000 bucks off of it. Now, this 4,000 wasn't like in all one go. This was in the course of like, you know, a couple of months, but I got a lot of stuff from it. And you know, this is one of my favorite swords that I got. You know what's weird is that this was, you know, the price of this was the price of one trapdoor spider that I caught, and I sold it, then I bought this with it. And you know, that was it. You know, I was making a lot of money as a kid, as a 15-year-old kid, making that much money. I felt really good about myself. I thought I could conquer the world and stuff, whatever, we won't get into that. And so yes, in the end of 2018, November 2018, I made a Bally song out of, again, inferior steel, but the bevels on it were pretty good. It was pretty decent because I used that belt grinder. Well, not belt grinder, that belt sander for it. And that caught the attention of one of my friends. You know, if you're watching this, thank you so much for when you bought that, you know, butterfly knife off me. It really helped a lot. So I made him a Bally song, and I sold it for about $100, which, looking back at it now, I could have done way better on that thing to sell it for $100, but yeah, that's that. And I also made one for my friend, which again, you know, wasn't as good. I cringe every time I look at those knives that I made. But yeah, then I thought to myself, alright, I'm making a bit of money off this Balisong stuff, so I made a list of all the stuff that I could earn money from. Because at the time, I was still in grade 10, and I wanted to do something. I didn't know what to do with my life. So I was thinking, you know what, why don't I just have a full-time job that I'm happy at, and on the side, I can make knives and sell them, and I can make the bug stuff happen as well. At the time, the knives and the bugs were just hobbies to me. They were just hobbies. And I just wanted a full-time job, because at the time, I wasn't, you know, my brain wasn't wired to that entrepreneurial mindset. I wasn't that eager to, you know, make my hobby into my career. I didn't know about that. And even if I did, I just didn't have the passion for it back then that I do now. Like, at this moment of time, I am so driven with this. It's like my life at this point. Yeah, I've dedicated all my time to it. So that's that. So in that moment, I thought to myself, okay, knives can be a business. Why don't I just step it up a little bit? So what I did was, Paris, you just texted me. Okay. If you're watching this, sup, you just texted me in the middle of my video. But anyways, in this whole knife making spectrum, I thought to myself, I could step this up a notch. So what I did was I stepped it up a notch. I bought a Ryobi belt sander, and this Ryobi belt sander was really bad. It's the same one that Z.Alpha used, one of my idols. I bought that because that's what he was using, and what he was making with that was ridiculous. Like, he'd make these really awesome knives with almost perfect bevels, and I thought to myself, damn, okay, if he's doing it like this, I can do it as well. But the thing was, he had been making things for years, and him to take a shitty belt sander and to make something great out of it takes so much time and effort and skill.